San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on! Get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. And we're going to be joined by Ian Hodgkinson, VAMPIRO, former WCW star, currently star in Mexico, who's going to be wrestling this coming Friday night at Arena Mexico in one of the biggest shows of the year in that country, their year-end spectacular against Rey Bucanero in a hair match. He's going to be wrestling Satoshi Kojima, who's one of the best wrestlers in the world, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on the Major League Wrestling show on December 20th. We'll be talking to him about that and the state of wrestling in Mexico and the United States. He'll be joining us in probably about 40 minutes or so you can call in at 1-800-878-PLAY to talk to him. Of course, you have full phone lines. You can talk to me. Bryan will not be here tonight. Bryan is wrestling. Well, actually, he may call in at some point, but it's touch and go if he'll be able to call in or not since he's wrestling tonight. But anyway, it's you, me, and the telephones. We got a lot of news to talk about. Very interesting week in professional wrestling. We actually have some matches for the Armageddon show. Really not that many. We are 7 days away from the show, pay-per-view this coming Sunday, also from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I think the only official matches are Kurt Angle against The Big Show for the SmackDown Championship and Shawn Michaels against Triple H for the Raw Championship. And they're also going to be Edge against Albert, which has not been announced but will be announced this week, and unless they change their mind. And Chris Benoit against Eddie Guerrero, also not announced. And aside from that, I think I don't even know what else they're going to be doing on that show. So I guess we'll find out a couple of the Raw matches. Well, we'll probably find out all the Raw matches tomorrow night. And Raw, of course, Triple H beating Rob Van Dam on Monday in a match. You know, again, I wrote about this earlier this week. The result of the match had to be what it was if they were going to do that match. How they scripted out that match with Triple H and Rob Van Dam was just unbelievable. It boggled my mind watching it, how they would make the heel the underdog overcoming all odds and winning. The lack of understanding of basic psychology in that match on Raw, it completely boggled my mind. But then again, I guess it shouldn't at this point. Anyway, we are going to head to a break right now. We're going to start taking phone calls. All our lines are lit up, but as soon as we're through with the call, you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY, and we'll be getting to your calls as quick as we can. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time with Wrestling Observer Live. And we'll be taking your phone calls in just a couple of minutes. Want to run down a couple more news items for the week, and I'm sure we'll be talking about several of these. Bob Sapp, yesterday in the K1 Grand Prix, he won his first match over Ernesto Hus, suffered a broken hand, and was eliminated from the tournament at that point. And Ernesto Hus took a spot. Because it's an 8-man tournament, had to go on and ended up winning the championship in front of a sellout crowd at the Tokyo Dome. And that should keep, the broken hand is going to keep Bob Sapp out of action for a couple of weeks. I think he's for sure out of the New Year's Eve show. I don't know about the January 4th Tokyo Dome show for New Japan and the January 19th Tokyo Dome show for All Japan. There's too many Tokyo Dome shows in too short of a period of time, and wrestling in Tokyo is going to in pretty tough shape, I think, come about March of next year. Roddy Piper showed up on NWA TNA on Wednesday night. It was quite the scene, very controversial, mentioned the death of Owen Hart, kind of deflated the crowd there. Vince Russo came out. What was real, what wasn't, who cares? I mean, it was, they got... You know, I think a lot of people know it, but they've just got the wrong idea of where they're going, NWA TNA, and Wednesday night was quite the fiasco of a show. Sting and Lex Luger back in wrestling. Of course, they've been back for about a week now on the WWA tour of the United Kingdom and Ireland. And they had a pay-per-view in Glasgow, Scotland on Friday. And it'll be airing in the United States in February with Sting against Lex Luger. And Sting, from what we understand, looked fine, and Lex Luger, from what we understand, looked horrible. And a couple of other guys on, Buff Bagwell looked horrible. I I don't know. I mean, the way I read those results didn't look like such a promising show at all. Now, Thursday night SmackDown, 4-way match with Kurt Angle, Edge, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, especially with Kurt Angle and Edge towards the end. A spectacular match, one of the best TV matches in a long time, which with Kurt Angle winning, setting up his match with the Big Show on Sunday. And it's going to be real interesting when we talk about Sunday because we got Shawn Michaels and Triple H. They did have a great match at SummerSlam, and I thought that their last couple of minutes of the Elimination Chamber match was excellent. But, you know, the novelty of Shawn Michaels is now worn off, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that they'll have a good match. Don't know that they'll have a great match. Kurt Angle and Big Show, that is quite the test for Kurt Angle, who is, I don't think Kurt Angle has had a bad match. Somebody could remind me of this on pay-per-view this year. He's certainly running a string of great ones. Actually, I think the one on the last show might have been the worst one in a long time, and that was a good match. But I don't know if he can keep that string going with the Big Show. I guess we will find out. We're going to start hitting to the calls right now. We're going to start in Atlanta. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, do you think Angle will win that match against Show?
I don't think so, no.
Aha. So there again. You think the Angle?
He might, but he needs knee surgery. That's why I'm saying that I don't know that he will.
But that WrestleMania with him and Brock is still kind of like the thing in the back burner, right?
There are so many things that are going on right now when it comes to WrestleMania negotiations. I mean, yes, that is the idea of what they have. But there's so many other things and people that they're talking to, which is basically anyone that you can imagine that they could be talking to, they are, about getting back on that show. And the jockeying for positions on that show is going to be very interesting come February.
2 quick questions. Have you seen the Piper shoot video that he's plugging?
No, I have not.
Okay. And secondly, I was wondering, is he still in Hawaii?
Yeah, he's living in Hawaii, and last I heard he was working as a longshoreman.
Aha. So I guess he didn't really save his money back in the...
Very few did.
All right, take care.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Dan in Chicago. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Dave? How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Went to Fozzy on Thursday in Shark City.
How'd it go?
It was very, very cool. Jericho is a very nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He is a really nice guy. He's he's very, very smart when it comes to wrestling too.
Yeah, I mean the crowd enjoyed it. They did TNT, you know that song by AC/DC.
Oh yeah, of course.
And they had the crowd come up on stage and chant it. You know, do that, do a couple of the verses of the song, and they had the guys do it, and then they had the girls do a certain chant, and it was very, very entertaining. And after the song, like, you know, the security kind of wanted to get the crowd off the stage, and of course nobody wanted to get off the stage. And Jericho's like, this is kind of an awkward moment. Nobody knows what to do. Jericho was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I had a ball, and he high-fived me, and so I was right up in front. I wanted to make sure I was right up in front, and he high-fived me, nice guy. And then he signed up my anthology CD and the Fozzy CD.
Okay.
So he is very, very, very... I'm going again if you come. Do you think that he does cities like that again? You know,
I have no idea how that touring is going with Fozzy. I guess he must have been doing the whole weekend because he didn't wrestle this weekend.
Right, yeah, he did a show on Friday out here, too. It was a little further away than where the first show was, so I just went to the Thursday night show. All in all, it was an awesome show. Very awesome show.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to talk about SmackDown on Thursday night.
Yes.
What did you think of the Dawn Marie Tori thing? Where are they going with that?
I think that was where they were going. Is what they did. A lot of that was heavily edited.
Yeah, no kidding.
The original footage was a lot more graphic, and UPN wouldn't go for it. And they did what they did. I just think that it's kind of flapping in the wind, so to speak. They want to shock people. At the same time, they know that the shock stuff doesn't work because it's already failed. So,
but you think what they should have done was, if they wanted to promote maybe WWE.com, maybe they could have been like, if you want to see, the raunchier stuff, go to WWE.com. And make people want to maybe look forward to maybe seeing what happened. The older guys want to maybe go check it out.
I think they'd get a lot of heat for that.
Oh, you think so?
Oh yeah.
Do you think because Rey Mysterio got hurt, and we know he's having surgery anyway.
He had surgery Thursday.
Right. Do you think that that's the possibility that Hogan might come back and be Edge's tag team partner?
No.
Do you think they would go for that or no?
No. I mean, anything's possible, but at this point, absolutely not. No.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Yeah.
Bye.
I shouldn't say absolutely not because, like I said, anything's possible, but that is not what they're thinking. Let's go to John in Chicago. John, what's going on?
Yeah. Hey, Dave.
Hey.
3 quick questions for you. First of all, the Dawn Marie Torrey thing.
Yes.
I'm not defending the angle whatsoever because I think it's just ridiculous. And again, what did they do? They made that the climax of the program instead of the fact that the world title match.
Well, I mean, they remember when they did that when there was that spectacular tables, ladders, and chairs match, and then they came back, and that didn't seem to work. Right. And the lesbian thing, I mean, I don't know what everyone's got this fascination with that because Howard Stern made a big deal out of it 5 years ago, but you're way behind the curve on that one.
That's true. But
and what else can I say about that?
Right. But the thing is, the UPN, I don't understand what UPN is thinking, oh, this is scatological, this is, severe and everything. Last year on Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, they were more they were running around with more sexual antics on that show than anything,
maybe because it's a better written show, they have more license.
That's true. I mean, yeah.
It was maybe when it's part of a well-scripted television show as opposed to something thrown out. When it's thrown out there for shock value with no other reason.
That's true.
It comes off as stronger and people react to it stronger, and maybe that's what I mean, it was really reaching.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they didn't even actually go that far compared to what stuff that I've seen on UPN before.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that it came off better that way because it left to your imagination. I think that if they had done it the way that they had taped it, I think that it would have come off really raunchy and it would have bit them. And this way, I mean, whatever controversy you can say, well, it's all in your mind anyway. They didn't actually do it.
The other 2 questions are, first of all, I still don't understand why Albert was placed in that. I understand Albert was placed in that position because he's a big guy and everything like that. But if you want to push a big guy, you could have pushed Bill DeMott, who's had tons more airtime, and also Matt Hart.
You're trying, what the problem is here is this was one of those decisions that was made very political.
Right.
By Vince McMahon, and because the reason is they have no plans for Bill DeMott. They do have plans for Albert. Okay, and this was a way to get Albert ready.
How many times did they push this guy? It's like
but it's like how many times when you got a big guy, he's going to get pushed over, and a guy with a good physique. Not that Albert has a good physique, but those guys are going to be pushed over and over and over again, and they'll take the small guy, and if he fails once, they'll write him off, and that's just how it is in this business. It's wrong, but that's how it is.
Bill DeMott if you're looking for a big guy, Bill DeMott can talk, gives a better promo, can probably do a better match with Edge at a pay-per-view.
You're right about that, but they have no plan. They don't have those plans for Bill DeMott, and they got plans. They got plans for Albert. That's the deal. So
the last question I have is Kurt Angle.
Yes.
I thought he's the Rookie of the Year when he first premiered. In my opinion, he's been the Wrestler of the Year these past 2 years, at least with the WWE.
Well, best in-ring wrestler, no doubt.
Yeah, and actually even all around because I think every time he's in a segment, he makes. He's a really entertaining guy. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. And why is it taken? They're not even going to give him the ball at all. I've never understood.
Maybe next year. The politics. We talk about it every week. Kurt Angle was one of those guys who sits back and lets them write for him rather than one of the guys who makes a decision. He doesn't have the knowledge of how to politically maneuver. He has the knowledge of how to perform, and unfortunately, the political knowledge and the longevity seems to mean more in that company right now. We got to go ahead to a break, okay?
All right.
Okay, we'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. We're here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network every Sunday night for 2 hours. Of course, Bryan is not here tonight. But if you are looking for information on how to subscribe to either the Wrestling Observer newsletter or Bryan Alvarez's Figure 4 Weekly, and Figure 4 Weekly was really funny this week. I say that every week, but it really was. Some of the stuff on WWE and It was just hilarious, TV reviews and everything. But anyway, for information on both publications and news all through the week, you can always go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We have, rundowns of the major shows going on. We got all the WWE shows from the weekend up there, the Ring of Honor show. We've got the WWA pay-per-view show and the house show from Manchester. News updates. But anyway, for info on, you just go to the website, www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's information how to subscribe to both the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which is the #1 source of inside information in pro wrestling all over the world. And this week's issue coming up is a real good one. Got a big story on Tim Mr. Wrestling Woods, some really cool stuff in that one. I think a lot of you will really enjoy this week's issue. And next week's issue is going to be the issue on the Hulk Hogan book. I don't know how long it's going to be, but there are people who think that I may have to take a whole issue to write about that book. I don't know. I'm hoping not. But anyway, info on that stuff is on the website. Let's go to Jonathan in Savannah, Georgia. Jonathan, how are you?
How are you doing, Dave? I'm doing all right.
Good.
I had a couple questions for you. Is it true that XPW is going to have like a full lease on Viking Hall after the first of the year?
Yes, that is true. That is true.
That is true. Okay. Well, and my other question, I have a couple more, but one of them was, did you ever catch Paul London on Velocity?
I didn't watch. I shouldn't say that. I watched the Matt Hardy match. I tuned into Velocity towards the end just to watch Confidential, but I didn't see the Paul London match.
Okay. It was actually pretty. I mean, he ended up losing. He wrestled Cena and lost, but he actually looked pretty good when he in his offensive moments.
Yeah.
But my question about that was, do they have any interest in London or Michael Shane or American Dragon, WWE?
Well, they had them all in tryouts this week. What I've heard is they kind of thought that Paul London tries to do too many spots. They know about American Dragon because he's been with them before. So, I mean, I don't know how much interest they have. Quite frankly, for American Dragon, I think it might be in his best interest not to go even if they offered him, because I think for him at this stage of his career, New Japan's probably better for a couple of years. Michael Shane, Michael Shane's okay. I haven't heard. I mean, put it this way, none of the three have been offered contracts yet. That as far as will they be? I don't know.
Okay. And with that last caller talking about Matt Hardy, that was my one question. Is he going to be working Velocity from now on? Does he have?
No. Paul Heyman's high on him, and he'll be on. It's not like he's relegated to Velocity or anything like that. But he just didn't get a chance to do the angle that. That Tuesday afternoon at 4:00 in the afternoon, he was planning on doing, and then the call came, and it's Matt, you're taken out of the angle, and a lot of people were not happy about. That one. I wasn't happy. I had to watch Albert. And Albert. I got to tell you something. I watched the thing on Thursday, and Albert and Rey Mysterio. The minute I saw them in the ring, it was like, this looks ridiculous. This is stupid. Yeah. They get off on that stuff.
Yeah, and then the fact that Albert's been wrestling like Velocity, and then they're joking about it like on SmackDown about it. Just, I don't know. And my last question for you was, do you think there's any way you could get like Mick Foley to be a guest on your show, or Dynamite Kid, or anybody?
Dynamite Kid, I don't know. Mick Foley, after the first of the year, I'm going to ask him. He couldn't do it until after December 15th because of his WWE contract.
Right.
After December 15th, he could do it if he wants to. I don't know that he wants to, but I'll ask it after the first of the year.
Okay.
Okay?
That was it.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, let's go to James in Seattle. James, how are you?
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
You were just mentioning Hulk Hogan's book, and Jeff Merrick had some really funny comments on that. He was talking about how there's one episode Hogan talks about where he knocks Ricky Choshu for a loop with a forearm and pins him.
That was quite a bit of fiction, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jeff was saying that was really Akira Maeda.
Akira Maeda didn't even pin him.
Yeah, I just remember hearing that Akira Maeda tended to do that a lot. Like he just turned stuff into shoots. Like he did it to Andre, and he kicked Sayama in the groin. What was his deal?
Okay. A lot of that stuff was his fault. The Ricky Choshu thing was a total cheap shot. The Sayama thing was basically Sayama and Maeda's match got out of hand. It was Maeda's last match, or Sayama's last match, before he retired for years and years. And in that match, Sayama claimed Maeda kicked him in the groin, basically to get out of the match right away because it was turning ugly and Maeda was a bigger guy. Andre, that was Andre's fault. That was 100% Andre's fault. And Maeda, if Maeda really wanted to hurt him, he could have ended his career, and he wanted to, but the office wouldn't let him because Andre was drunk, uncooperative. Andre was the one. If you watch the match, if you ever see a tape of it, Andre was trying to go for Maeda's eyes long before Maeda started retaliating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing is, the Tory Don thing. Like, my dad's sort of a wrestling fan. He just happened to flip into the end of SmackDown, the four-way match, and he called me up because he didn't really know the guys. And so I was sort of, I was talking him through it on the phone. I was filling him in on everything, and it was a really good match, and he enjoyed it. And then the Tory Don thing comes on. He's like, "Oh, what's up with these two?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just like, how do they expect us to? I don't see how they expect that to bring in new fans, because I don't feel like going to my friends who aren't wrestling fans and saying, hey, look at this, you can see, lesbianism.
And they tried it how many weeks ago, and what a miserable failure it was then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how that alienates their fan base. I don't think
they don't see it that way. The whole thing with the lesbianism thing is they think it's such a turn on to guys that it will mean ratings, and I mean, time will tell. I mean, we'll know next week. But I mean, I think that it's just such a dated thing. It's like and I think that they're trying to look like they're cool, and to me it just looks like that they're just following something that's been dead for years. I mean, God, once, like this was the idea that, Russo had, and how many years ago was Russo in WWE? Like he left in October of '99, and he was trying to get Sable to do it, he was trying to get Ivory to do it, and probably several others that we don't know about to do it, the Cat, and nobody would do it. And so, it's basically a 3-year-old, 4-year-old concept. Paul Heyman did it once in ECW, it amounted to nothing. And, but I don't know. I mean, it was just this, and this was probably Paul's idea. I don't know that it wasn't, but I'm assuming it was his idea. And, I don't know what to say. I don't know where you go from here.
I can't say it's going to alienate fans. I don't think that segment wasn't that raunchy, so I don't think it's going to drive people away. But I think that the four-way match there was much more likely to get wrestling fans to go out and say, "Dude, check this out. This was a really good match."
Well, the four-way match was phenomenal, but I mean, one of the problems, and SmackDown has been great of late, but one of the problems that they've had is you could only do something so many times in wrestling before, even when it's good, it gets stale. It's like Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. You couldn't do it 52 weeks a year. People would get sick of it, even though it's a great match. And it's the same thing with these guys. This great 20-minute match, it's basically the same guys over and over and over again. I know they're going to run it. They're going to hit the wall when people are just tired of seeing Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit against each other, even though it's great, and they better be ready when that happens, and it may be happening soon because we've gotten it so many weeks in a row.
Well, I was wondering, maybe since wrestling is such a big part of SmackDown, I would love to see them bring in some Japanese guys, maybe, but
they're not. That's not how they think.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Yeah, it would freshen it up, and we'd get new matchups, and I mean, new good matchups are great. It's the same matchup, kind of mixed up in different ways with those 6 guys, and and the problem also with those 6 guys that we're talking about, Angle, Benoit, Guerrero. Rey Mysterio, Edge, and Chavo Guerrero. The thing with those guys is that, now because they're having such incredible matches week after week, I mean, Edge is all banged up, Angle's all banged up, Mysterio just had surgery, Benoit's banged up, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the same thing that happened with Benoit a year ago when he had all those incredible matches, on all the shows, and then the next thing you know, he needed surgery right when he was starting to get hot, because you can only do those incredible 25, 30-minute matches so much before your body's going to wear out.
And, the guys that aren't hurt, you look at Chavo. I mean, they jobbed him out in a singles match to Kidman.
But they had a nice match, though. That was good.
It was a good match, but they were, Kidman I don't think is getting much of a reaction. Chavo's doing, he's...
Yeah, but Chavo's got the tag title. He doesn't need the cruiserweight belt.
What I was thinking is that it really hurts the tag title when he gets beat by Billy Kidman.
But they're trying to put over the cruiserweight title.
Right.
I mean, that's the idea. And if you have Chavo, who's one of the better cruiserweights, and you think, well, he's too good to challenge for the cruiserweight title, then you've already screwed the division right there. So I think I don't have a problem with that, and they had a good match. And I don't think people are hurt by having good matches and losing. I think that they're hurt by I think that they're hurt by if they never get the win. But one loss, in a good match, that's not going to hurt anybody.
I thought maybe a DQ finish would have been better just to keep it hot, but
Yeah. Well, only if you're going to build it up to a pinfall, because if you're just doing a DQ to get out of a match, that usually doesn't work today.
That's true.
Okay. Anyway, we got to go ahead to a break right now.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, we'll be back with more. We'll be taking your phone calls. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We'll have Vampiro up in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night here on the Sports Byline USA Network, talking pro wrestling, Wrestling Observer Live. We've got a full bank of phone calls as well. We're going to be joined by Vampiro in just a couple of minutes. And we're going to, first, before we go to Vampiro, we're going to go to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Adam. Adam, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm doing really good.
I just have a quick question concerning Bret Hart now. I'm pretty sure you heard about this, but one of my friends actually spoke to Bret Hart, and he told him that they have decided to hand over his video footage, which he's going to use for his upcoming autobiography. But basically, my overall question was, with Bret being brought up so much on WWE TV in general with the whole Randy Orton thing a couple weeks ago, and just overall, do you see him possibly even just making an on-roll return? Because a lot of the rumors I'm seeing are pointing to a possible February 2003 return, which is the holding the No Way Out pay-per-view in Montreal, which will actually be the...
Well, I mean, when they did the TV, the last time they did Raw in Montreal, they were begging him to come. I don't know if begging is the right word, but they wanted him to come. But so I have no doubt that if he doesn't show up before then, that at that February pay-per-view, they will ask him to come. Will he do it? I don't know. I would surmise that we're going to have Bret Hart on this show long before then, so we could ask him about that. But possibility. I mean, okay, we already know they've been trying to get him for certainly since we know about WrestleMania, we know about the Montreal Raw. They've been trying to get him for a while. As far as what he wants to do, as far as I could see him showing up for one show. As far as coming back as a regular role, I really don't see it happening. And I don't know. There's nothing wrong with him showing up for one show, but I also don't know what big benefit it would be for anyone other than you know what I mean. So I don't know that he should do it right now.
See, that's the thing. I mean, it'd be cool to see him on the show, but just overall, just a long-term goal. I mean, I don't see where they could really take the character because if you see Bret Hart, wow, you're gonna get the ratings, but.
Well, you're only going to get the ratings if you advertise it, and knowing Vince, Vince is probably, he's as whacked out as Russo now, and he'll probably want to make it a surprise, and they won't even get the ratings out of it.
Exactly, and I know Canadian fans are still, they're still going crazy. I have a really good friend who, he said you just don't need to understand how much these people love Bret Hart in Canada, and especially. Yeah, he's a big,
he's a big deal in Canada. I've been to Canada many times, and if I was him, if I was him, I wouldn't come back, but I wouldn't do it. But if maybe it's better to, it'll make it look like he's not bitter or something to just do it, say hi, and I don't know.
I mean, maybe they could do something with Shawn Michaels. I mean, I'm not saying.
I don't see him doing an angle. I just don't see. What do you do? I mean, unless you have him and Shawn Michaels shake hands and say, "Oh, it's over, it's done with," and
that'd be pretty brutal to see that. I don't think I could even stomach that.
But that's the only thing you can do. I mean, you can't have him wrestle again. I mean, Bret's never going to wrestle again, so it's like, what's the point?
I think it'd be cool to have some kind of confrontation between the two. Like if Shawn Michaels was to say, "You know what, I'm retiring, I'm leaving," and then Bret Hart comes out and says, "Oh no, buddy, you're not leaving yet. And I'm here to show." But I mean, if Bret could still
wrestle, that would be cool. But he can't still wrestle, so that's where that falls apart.
That's the problem. Yeah. That's the only thing I see with it. But I mean, honestly, I'd like to see a return. But as you said, no long-term future in the storylines with it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. He may. It wouldn't shock me to see him do. In fact, I expect someday, he'll probably show up on that show. I don't know when it will be, though.
I'd love to see it. But all right, thanks, Dave, very much.
Okay, you're very welcome, Adam. Let's go to Winnipeg. What's going on, Ryan?
How's it going?
Going good.
Okay. About Roddy Piper on that NWA TNA thing.
Yes.
Do you think that was insensitive to bring up Owen Hart?
Absolutely. It shouldn't have been there. I think it just shouldn't have been on the show, and I think everyone knows it shouldn't have been on the show, and that's.
Do you think both shows should never mention Owen Hart because it's sort of like a cheap pop in a way or something like that? Or
I don't think that there's anything wrong with mentioning him, and if it's a certain thing to say and it's relevant to if it's relevant to something. But But as far as using him in an angle, no. Neither promotion should ever use him in an angle.
But yeah, it's sort of like making money off of a dead body, and
it's not so much making money off of a dead body; it's trying to get heat off of a dead body. And I just thought that it was really tactless. The way it was done, I thought that the whole way that show was done on Wednesday, I just thought was really, it was just sad. We know that they're desperate for attention, and it's understandable. We knew that from going in, but the way it came off so bad. And again, and it wasn't even planned. I don't think. Somebody planned it, but it was. Their whole thing of how they laid that whole thing out was just so sad. And where does it go? And what did they accomplish?
And coming from Rowdy Piper, wasn't he like a friend of the Hearts or something?
Oh, yeah, Rowdy Piper and Bret Hart are really good friends. Yes, absolutely.
So coming from him, doesn't it make it better than coming from Vince Russo or somebody? Or
I don't think that anyone in the Hart family that I've heard is mad at Rowdy Piper, but I just thought that it came off bad.
And with with Raw coming up, do you think they would invite Rowdy Piper back? Because he was such a big main eventer in the 80s and all that sort of stuff. And
yeah, I'm sure that they would like to. My gut feeling is that they're not going to even be calling people until about a week before because they're afraid of the names getting out. But yeah, I would think that to bury the hatchet. I would think they should call him. Yeah.
Do you think Rowdy Piper was a good main eventer in the 80s, or did he?
Oh, he was. Rowdy Piper was an excellent heel, and he was an excellent babyface. Up through about 87 or so. He was a huge draw, and even a few years after that. But I would, and not just in WWE. In the Carolinas. He was a phenom in Oregon, California. Rowdy Piper, great talker, and he, when they talk about his drawing power, that's real. That's not fake.
Did you see his thing on the internet about Piper's pissed or whatever? His shoot? Did you hear it or?
I didn't hear about his thing. I read what he wrote, and I felt really bad for him because I knew how. Based on people's reaction, I know how bad people thought it came off. But I don't know what he said on the other thing. I
don't know if he was in character or if he was like real. Because
I wonder if he knows the difference.
Well, you saw him on Larry King and Politically Incorrect, though. So
Politically Incorrect, he didn't come off that bad. Larry King, I thought he came off pretty good.
Both were pretty bad, though.
Yeah, no, Politically Incorrect, he was pretty bad. But that whole show was bad, though. That show was terrible. But yeah, he wasn't good on Politically Incorrect. But I thought he was good on Larry King.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to disagree with you on that. And before I go, that guy from DC that you always used to have on the show? He was called from DC. DC, yeah.
Which guy? We've had a lot of people call from DC.
Yeah, and he would always say, "Have you got my tape yet?"
Oh, well, Phil Schneider.
Right, that's it. I actually sent you a package, and hopefully you'll get it very soon.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
All right. Let's go to London, Ontario. A lot of Canadian listeners tonight. Jeremy, what's going on?
Oh, not much. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing really good.
Okay, I want to talk about UFC and Rodriguez' upcoming title fight.
Yes.
Who's it going to be against?
Right now, the leading candidate's Tim Sylvia.
Really?
Yeah, as of right now. It could change tomorrow, but yeah, that's the candidate right now.
Like, I heard Tank Abbott, but I heard he wasn't, like...
I don't want to say that's
not even advertised on their website, as coming back.
Yeah, Tank Abbott's coming back. They wanted Tank Abbott on this show.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't look like he'll be on the February show. I think he's going to be on the April show.
Who's he going to fight?
They haven't decided. There's a lot of names.
I've heard Chemo, but that would be a pretty bad idea.
Chemo was talked about, but I heard that it's like maybe 5% chance it's going to be Chemo at best.
Yeah, that'd be pretty bad, considering like of all the people from the past they could bring back, why like Chemo? There's a lot more.
Well, I think the idea was that because Chemo's a guy that they're confident Tank Abbott can beat. That's probably why.
That's true. Okay, I just want to mention, and before that's about it, I just want to mention though about the Bret Hart thing. I would be really disgusted if Hart did that, like came back, did that whole WWE thing. I'm a Canadian fan though, so that's probably right up my, like as the guy was saying, the Canadians are really behind Bret Hart, and especially since the Montreal incident, he's become kind of a national hero. And it would, I don't know, I'd be sick, you know. Yeah, because
I go back and forth on that one because if it was up to me, I don't know that
I know it truly would end that whole bitter rivalry, but I don't know if it would end it. Like if he came out and did an angle with Shawn Michaels,
No. If he didn't angle, it would be terrible. But I mean,
even if he did that thing, like a thing with like a handshake with Shawn Michaels or anything, that'd be horrible. I mean, I'd be disgusted.
Well, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I know that.
We should tell him that.
We're really strongly behind Bret Hart, like a lot of us are, anyways.
Yeah,
I am. I'm a big Bret Hart fan.
Oh, I was always a big fan of Bret Hart when he was a wrestler too.
I think you've got a lot of integrity. That's about it.
Okay.
Have a good night, Dave.
Okay. We're going to go to somewhere in Mexico, and I'm not even sure where, but we've got Ian Hodgkinson, Vampiro on the line. Where are you tonight?
I'm in Mexico City.
Mexico City? How you
doing?
I'm doing really good. Well, over the last, we haven't really been seeing you in the United States for a while. I mean, I've actually watched you on the Galavision pretty regularly and in Arena Mexico, and actually it's some of the best wrestling in the world right now. And you're going to be wrestling. You're wrestling Ray Bucanero Friday night, right?
Yes, I am.
And it's a big hair match. And now you cut your hair short just not all that long ago before this hair match. Any reason for that?
Yeah, I was bored. That was it, man. I had long hair for like 18 years, and it was kind of like I wanted to leave everything that was Vampiro kind of in the past, you know? It was time for a change.
Now, that's the one thing, if people have not watched the wrestling from Arena Mexico, if they saw you, they would not recognize you. I mean, because I know, like, without you don't have the face paint anymore, you have the short hair, you're a lot bigger. I don't know, 250, 260. I know, like, when friends of mine have seen it, and they see it's like, well, who's this new big guy? And it's Vampiro. So you totally, basically changed your look.
Changed everything. Had a lot of growing up to do, obviously, for, I guess, the first 10, 11 years of being involved in pro wrestling. I got a great position in Mexico right away, real young, without really earning it. And, I was pretty immature, and I couldn't handle a lot of this. With a lot of success at a young age comes excess in everything, and it just got out of control. After I broke my neck at Halloween Havoc in Vegas, I had like 2 years to mend, and I just saw that there's so much more out there than pro wrestling in life. I just had a daughter, and my marriage was great, so I just basically went full-time into studying, and just wanted to change everything about me. And when they told me I couldn't wrestle, that's when I started working with Matt Fury. Well, I don't know if a lot of people know who he is, but he's really the one and only who's into catch wrestling right now, and training with your body weight, a lot of gymnastic stuff, a lot of yoga, a lot of old-time wrestling and boxing philosophies and exercises. And from there, I had to change everything I did in the ring. I had to actually learn how to wrestle because I couldn't fly around anymore or do a lot of crazy big bumps because of my head and neck injuries. So I basically had to not only change my look, I didn't have to change my look. My whole wrestling philosophy had to change. With that came the change in look. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's basically what happened.
So we've got to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to come back with more with Vampiro right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're here every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific time. Our guest tonight is Vampiro from Mexico, and he'll be wrestling, besides his Friday night match, which we talked about against Ray Bucanero, where he's going to be wrestling on December the 20th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the War Memorial Auditorium for Major League Wrestling against Satoshi Kojima, who's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and that's a really loaded show. It includes Taiyo Kea from All Japan Pro Wrestling against Jerry Lynn, which on paper sounds like a great match. And for old-time Florida fans, Dusty Rhodes, Terry Funk, and Steve Corino in a three-way. And we were before we get back to what we were talking about. I wanted to. Were you talked with as far as doing the All Japan Tag Team Tournament and being Muto's partner this year?
No.
Really?
No. There's a lot of speculation flying around, and Sawa. He works in Mexico too. I don't know if a lot of listeners know who he is. I'm sure you do. He told me that was the big thing in Japan. Was the rumor was supposed to be me, but apparently I still got a little bit of heat there with Mrs. Baba, even though she's not in the picture. And Muda's sent word to me just to let it cool down a little bit, and then I can go back.
Mm-hmm.
So no.
Now, when was the last time that you wrestled in the States?
Oh man, I guess for the Major League Wrestling show in New York.
That's right. What what are your thoughts as far as I'm trying to think. You went to You went over there before. I think it was before Kojima was actually with All Japan. Is that right? When you were going to All Japan?
Before.
Yeah, so you've never wrestled him before?
No, I met him at the last show. And obviously, I'm very familiar with who he is and his work because I watch Japanese wrestling constantly. And I'm looking forward to it, just because I don't get to wrestle. The style that I love is Japanese style. And, of course, being down here in Mexico, it's a whole different world. And obviously in the United States, that's a different picture too. So I'm pretty excited to get to work with him.
We have got to go to our hourly break right now. We've got a full bank of phone calls right now. Actually, I take that back. We have one line open. You can jump in at 1-800-878-PLAY. We're going to start taking phone calls for Vampiro in the second hour. I want to remind you also that we've got a lot of topics, actually, to talk about in the second hour, including Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was on the show a couple weeks ago, and something was brought up by one of the callers, and I had forgotten about it. And then on my way home, I remembered the story, and I felt like a complete idiot. So anyway, we'll talk about that as soon as we come back, actually, as well as Vampiro opening up a training school in Mexico and some of his other goals for life as he winds, for the remainder of his wrestling career and how much longer he wants to go and all kinds of stuff like that. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on! Get it on!
Hey, welcome back to the second hour here of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're here every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, 7 to 9 Pacific Time, here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Our guest for the rest of the show will be Vampiro Ian Hodgkinson, who's down in Mexico City right now, getting ready for one of the biggest matches of the year in Mexico City. And we got a ton of questions. We also got full lines. We got a lot to talk to him about. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about real quick was business in Mexico and at Arena Mexico, and it's been pretty strong the last couple of months, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's got nothing to do with me, but since I've been back, things have been picking up quite a bit. But outside the city, in the provinces, down south and stuff, things are so-so, but in the city, in the big arena, it's been filling up quite a bit every Friday.
You've been through Mexico through, great, fantastic periods and not so fantastic periods. And, is there anything that you could see, just from your knowledge of, being back and forth in Mexico for about 15 years or so, 13 years, of why it would be, what they've done wrong during the bad periods and why it would be good during the good periods, or is it just basically the economy?
I would say about 95% of it's the economy, but wrestling and soccer and music just don't die down here. It might slow down, but it doesn't die. And over the last 3 years, they had a huge changing of the guard down here. A lot of the big name guys are getting older, and a lot of the younger guys have really stepped up to the plate. And it's a whole new breed of people, a whole new breed of fans. It's a little bit different in the office booking wise. Still makes no sense, but it's changing. And then we know with cable down here now, they get a lot of influence from American wrestling. And American wrestling isn't that popular down here, but people see it. So, that's helping things change down here too. So now there's new faces, and the wrestling's a lot stronger. And I say stronger, it's a lot stiffer than what it used to be. That contracted to the people down here. So this is a rough place to live, and people like violence. That's just the way it is, and it's never really slowed down, but it's just different now.
We're going to go ahead to a break, and then we're going to go back. We're going to start taking phone calls for Vampiro, and we'll talk to him about a lot of other stuff, including his lengthy stay in WCW and American wrestling, as well as Japanese wrestling, because he's a big fan of that as well. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Bryan Alvarez not here tonight, but he will be back with us in a couple of weeks. And he's wrestling, actually. In fact, he's going to be wrestling for Portland Wrestling when they start on WB in Portland on Saturday nights in January. We'll talk about when the next time he's on the air, we'll talk about Portland Wrestling. But we're talking about wrestling in not just Mexico, but all over the world. We've got VAMPIRO on with us. And I guess the first thing I want to, a couple of months ago, we had Jeff Jarrett on the show, and a caller called up and brought up when he was supposed to drop the U.S. title to you and didn't, and he said that it never happened. And I had, I've attempted to black out much of the last year or so of WCW, and then I was driving.
I tried to black out the whole thing myself.
Yeah, and I was driving home, and I go, he just said it didn't, and I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden on the way home, I go, wait a minute, I remember that story real well now. So now what, you were. As I recall, you were a babyface, and it was one of those things where they were in one of those weeks where it's like, we're going to get a new babyface over because of all the old guys, and it was your turn, and then he just sort of said no, and it just never got back there, I guess.
They had me as a heel.
Okay.
But the fans were digging the character. I got a phone call Sunday night. Terry Taylor had said to me, Kevin Sullivan just called. I want to give you the news. Congratulations. Tomorrow you're going to be the champ. So the people love your character. The office is happy. We're going to give you a huge push. You beat Jeff tomorrow night. I said, cool. I was ecstatic. Next day, I checked my messages at about 6 a.m. and there was a message from Terry. He says, I'm sorry. I feel like an asshole, blah, blah, blah. Jeff has decided that it's not good for him to drop the belt because he's going against Goldberg for the heavyweight title the week after, and he feels that you're not a strong enough character. So that was that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did happen.
What now? Looking back, you've been at it
so much. You've never seen me in TNA, have you?
Yeah. When looking back, it's been 2 years since you've been at it there, and you've been from every nickel and dime promotion in Mexico and all over the world. And, I mean, what do you compare that WCW to? And do you have anything of, like, looking back going, like, this is what I learned from it, or this is what, should never be done again, and, what a mess, or, what are kind of, like, going back, your thoughts on that whole experience?
It was probably the time that I was most depressed in my life, just because of the stress of the politics of that place. It was, I could spend 4 or 5 days saying bad words and saying bad things about everybody, but the easiest way to do it is just to say it was just depressing. It was horrible, the whole thing, the politics, but the good things I got out of it was I actually buried the hatchet that I had with Conan, who is anybody who's been following your subscription or wrestling over the last 6 years knows very well that we did not like each other at all. But that was something that was supposed to never happen in my lifetime, and it did. I got to work with Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Muda, who's my idol. Sting actually indirectly taught me a lot. I learned a lot about in-ring philosophy and timing and just when and what to do at certain times from working with him. So those were some pretty cool things. I got to see the United States, which, being from Canada and being in Mexico almost all my life, I didn't get to see a lot of places. Having a doll and all those kind of things, and the merchandise was kind of cool, and meeting as many cool people as I did was real nice. But having some cool matches was good too, but going to Europe was awesome. But just being around the dressing room for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, pay-per-views, having to sit there for 13 hours and watch all these drug-infested egomaniacs was just depressing. What should never be done again is you should never let those idiots get control of the book. But I guess that's too late, huh?
Yeah. Now, and we were talking earlier about Mexico and everything, and a lot of the new stars. And who are some of the guys that maybe listeners would not be familiar with? That that even when you were there, several years ago, were either unknowns or just starting out, that are now top dogs there. And what do you think of the various people there that are the big stars?
well, I don't know if anybody knows who Tarzan Boy is, but he started out as a a pretty boy Chippendale type kind of thing because he's a great body and he's dark skinned and all that kind of thing. But when he turned from face to heel, he did such an awesome job that he's super over as a heel down here. Ray Bucanero and Ultimo Guerrero, they can work, they can hang with anybody out there in the world, Japan, the States, China, Greenland if you want. Those two kids are awesome. Ray Bucanero, to me, as soon as he gets a little bit more confidence in himself, he could be one of the top 5 guys in the world, I think. He's just that awesome. Shocker, he's on top of his game right now. Still a little goofy, like he's a little immature, but he's definitely got the tools to be a big gun. And who else? There's just a ton of guys, like almost everybody see on the program. Some of them still are just a little bit too Mexican. They need some international experience just to see what else is out there, because they've learned everything they can down here. But the new breed of guys, everybody's in shape. Everybody's inventing new moves every day, but those guys that I've mentioned are pretty well the big guns right now down here.
As far as the crowds and everything like that, have you noticed a difference in the crowds now as compared to a few years ago, or is it a similar type of a crowd?
They're a lot more educated, because a lot of the guys have been to Japan. A lot of Japanese have come down here, and once again with the influence of U.S. wrestling on TV, and especially with the explosion of mixed martial arts, with Bryan, UFC, being on TV down here, people are a lot more wise to what's up, and that's why wrestling is a lot stiffer down here, because a lot of things they used to do they don't do anymore because the people, like I said, are more educated in that sense. But fans, no, it's pretty well the same. You get it's about 80%, hardcore wrestling fans, and then it's about 20% of people who just want to be seen that something is popular.
We're going to go to Chesapeake, Virginia, and Wes. Wes, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, Vampiro.
Hey.
I wanted to ask, I guess, first question. I know Ultimate Dragon returned a couple weeks ago down, I believe, Mexico City. Were you able to see him? And if you did, how did he look?
He looks Japanese. I see him all the time. I see, we're friends. He's got his dojo down here. As far as, the guys from Japan come over here to learn. He looked good. He looked real good. He's motivated. He told me himself. He said that, he's just super bored just being a promoter. He's a young guy, and it was unfortunate the accident that he had, but he looked good and he looked great in the ring. He's in shape. I feel bad for him that he had such a bad time when he went to Los Angeles with that Epic show.
Yeah.
He was really looking forward to making a splash, and instead of a splash, I think that ship just sunk.
The other question I had, it was interesting when ECW brought in a lot of the guys from AAA. I was always wondering, though, how come they never brought you, or was there any talk of bringing you in? Or
I have no idea. I tried so hard. You better ask Paulie that one, because he called me, and then he told me to call him right back, and I called him, like I said, 1 million times, at least 3,000 times, and he never answered the call. Now I was ready to go. And then even when I got fired from WCW the first time, he called me at home right away and said, look, we got a contract. Please start the next day in Philadelphia on a pay-per-view. And when I asked him about how much money it was, he said he'd get right back to me, and I never heard from him again. So I have no idea.
Well, thanks for your comments, and good luck to you, man. I really enjoy your work.
Thank
we
you.
were talking during one of the breaks. You've opened up a gym. It's kind of like a mixed martial arts type of gym.
Yeah, there's that. That's part of the martial art is, it's not even a martial art. If you look on the internet and it's Senshido.com, you'll see the school in Canada. It's a reality-based personal protection, self-defense system, and it's common attacks in the street, or against 1 or 2 to 3 to 4 people, weapons, knives, guns. There's programs for women, anti-assault. There's children's programs. We got stuff for the military, for the police. So, and then of course, included in that, there's various martial arts, as far as kickboxing is concerned, in grappling, in submission holds. Obviously, in a street attack, you're not going to suit up and put on your black belt and get into a stance. But, you know, some of the things are influenced, obviously, by martial arts, of course. So, yeah, there's a bit of everything included in the program.
We've got to go ahead to a commercial break right now. We're going to start getting some more phone calls right after the break for Vampiro. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA radio network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Of course, Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly usually joins us. For information on either of those two publications, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We also have news updates constantly throughout the week, as well as rundowns of TV show rundowns and news on how to get both newsletters. And as I always recommend Figure 4 Weekly because it just cracks me up every Saturday when I get it. We're here with Vampiro, and one of the things...
Can I tell you one more thing, Dave, that I forgot to tell you?
Sure.
I've got a part on a TV show down here.
Oh, really?
It's like a variety talk show, and it's one of the highest-rated programs down here in Mexico, and it's on TV Azteca. And I have a segment, daily segment, plus I'm on live once a week, and it's I have a self-defense for women. That's my segment, and we shoot live in the street or in subways or whatever we're trying to demonstrate. So that starts on this Friday. So that's a pretty cool thing I got going on, too.
That is pretty cool. Now, they didn't they just do a biography show on you on TV Azteca fairly recently?
Last week it aired. They told me it was the highest-rated program they had of the history of that show.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that ever going to air in the United States, or do you even know?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but I know that I sent Bob a copy of that, and you'll probably get it soon.
Okay, well, that's good.
I don't know how your Spanish is doing.
You know, it should be a million times better, as much Mexican wrestling as I watch, but it's like I watch the Mexican and Japanese wrestling, and I still don't know any of the words, and you would think by now I would have picked something up, but...
You know what kind of an idiot I used to be, so that's pretty well the whole program. With me saying that, you know what's going on.
Yeah. Now, one of the things with you, this, you know, when you came to WCW, and you came to WCW, you had been a star. Yeah, I think one of the things, I guess it used to always bother me about the attitude. You know, I don't want to indict, wrestling, American wrestlers or anything like that, but there is an attitude among older American wrestlers. Have you ever drawn money? Have you ever drawn money? And then, some of the guys, and you, and Conan was another one who came up from Mexico and actually had, in many ways, maybe with the exception of maybe one or two guys, and that's a maybe. There are a few guys in that company, as big a names as they thought they had, that had ever actually drawn the kind of crowds that you guys had drawn on a consistent basis, early in your career. And part of it was because Mexico was on fire, and, you were right place, right look, right time. Nevertheless, had you drawn money, yes, and had you made money and all that. And yet, when you came in, they were oblivious to it, and they probably were going like, that guy with the makeup, it's like, who's he? And one of the things that I thought that when you came in, and I thought that this killed you, I won't say killed you, but hurt you, and it took a lot of time before you ever got out of the starting gate there, was because even though you could speak the language, you got lumped in as another luchador who's coming in here and does this and this and this and can't speak English and blah, blah, blah. And you know what I mean? I think that the name was kind of a stigma, and I think that really hurt you. If you were an American, I think that they would have treated you very much differently. And I don't know, what were your thoughts as far as going in and literally, if you went to Japan, just as an example, they would give you the respect of being a legitimate major superstar. In Mexico, whatever that would mean in Japan, you'd have that respect. When you came to WCW, you literally started from underground and had to dig your way up to just sea level at first.
Was there racism in WCW? Definitely. Did I feel it? No. Did I feel the politics? Yeah. A lot of that had to do with me and Conan. Like I said, we buried that. But he and other people, not just him, put it into the heads of the people that when I was coming in, that I was trouble, this and that, couldn't work, whatever. I don't know the whole story. The thing with the makeup and Sting, that blocked it. Plus, I worked real stiff. And my first match, I think some guy broke his ribs. It was an accident, but it just happened to be my kick that did it. So everybody was like, A, we hear he's bad news. B, he's trying to copy Sting. C, he does everybody else's moves, which is not true. That's like saying in basketball, well, he dunks, how come I can't dunk? You know what I mean? Like, not way. It's just like wrestling. If you give a headlock, just because I give a headlock doesn't mean I'm stealing your move. And, you know, the thing with Sting. And then another thing was they said he works too stiff. And you know, when you get $4 million a day and you're full of anabolics and every other pain pill out there, you know, and you get somebody in there who wants to go, you know, that kind of rocks the boat. So, yeah, I definitely felt all of it.
Let's go to James in Louisville, Kentucky. James, what's up?
I'm not going to make many friends, am I, Dave?
James.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Bob Ryder.
Don't really have any. We were friends. I got nothing good or bad to say. I'm just disappointed that, through the bickering and catfighting and everybody else's opinion on the internet, things get blown out of whack. The only thing I have to say, and as I was super disappointed that he insinuated that when I broke my neck and I had my concussion, which was number 17, by the way, it said that I was faking it. And that really hurt, not because it had anything to do with wrestling, but just because of the fact that I was the one who was in therapy to use my hands again to be able to hold my 2-week-old daughter. So, you know, I took it to heart. That really bothered me, but I've got nothing good or bad to say.
And also, how could you rip off the Misfits so shamelessly?
I don't do it shamelessly at all. I'm the first one to say that. I'm their biggest fan. I love the Misfits.
But the whole thing with Jerry, you stole his artwork and his T-shirts. How do you justify that? By being a fan?
He gave it to me. And once he started getting out of joint about it, I stopped using it. I'm good friends with Michael Graves and with Doyle. I talk to Doyle frequently. And I've even spoken to Jerry, even when he's been down here. I even called him at home, and he calls me. I mean, it just got out of hand. And part of my whole thing when I first started wrestling was, I was in punk rock bands since I was 13 years old, and one of my biggest influences in my life was Jerry Only and the Misfits. I got nothing to hide about that. I'm not ripping off anybody shamelessly. If anything, I was saying thank you and giving them publicity in places that they would never get.
Okay, well, you should see Michael Graves' new band that he's starting. Okay, bye.
All right. Let's go to David in Long Island. David, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Couple questions for Vamp. Is the story about Negro Pasta...
I'll give some Prozac or St. John's word. Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, Dave.
Is the story about Negro Pastas punching out Leobardo Magadan true?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Is he legit suspended?
I'm sorry?
Is he legitimately suspended?
Oh, yeah. It's a big deal.
What's the story? Because a lot of people are not aware, but I guess what happened in the last couple, like maybe Tuesday or something? Or a week ago Tuesday?
I think it was Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday, yeah, like a week ago today.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, but I've definitely seen it on the news, like every 2 seconds, and I've seen it in the magazine that came out today. There's a 20-page spread on it. It's been building up over time, I guess, and I guess Negro he went and he confronted the guy, and the guy pushed the wrong button, and Negro punched him in the nose. And it was more like a slap, but the guy acted like he got shot by a rocket. And, they carried him out in a stretcher and the whole thing. And they've actually spoken on the phone. Negro's apologized, but Televisa has a major lawsuit against the company, the arena, and Negro. And as of right now, he's definitely suspended. And I don't know anything else, and it's just going to get uglier. That's for sure.
Wow. There's plenty of excitement there.
Yeah.
Anything else, Dave?
Yeah, question kind of for both of you, but I guess one, because Dave, you're kind of close to some people in WWF and also to get Vamp's opinion on it. What do you think about WWE saying that the wrestlers should not work stiff, with their strikes, but then have them take stupid bumps, as like notably Al Snow's moonsaults into the chairs a few weeks ago?
Well, I think I've watched a total of 10 minutes of WWF wrestling in my entire life. I have no idea what they do. I don't know anything about them. I obviously know who they are. I don't know anything about. I don't pay attention, and I have no interest in their policy. I don't know anything. I don't know.
I mean, we all know that they've had a lot of guys get hurt, and that they're trying to avoid injuries. But then
they're billion-dollar company. It's logical that they don't want him to. I mean, if you close on a guy real stiff, you look at Kawada or Misawa or Tenryu or Steve Williams, Dr. Death. Those guys are beat up.
Yeah, they're beat up.
If you're trying to get ratings on TV and you're creating characters, and all of a sudden they're knocking each other out, that's not good business.
Yeah. Now, and yet at the same time, the guys themselves, I think the guys themselves, when you're talking about the bumps, they'll willingly do it to themselves, but I think that there's a thing where you don't hurt somebody else. If you hurt yourself, well, that's just trying to get over. So maybe that's where, because I don't think Vince McMahon loves the idea of these guys taking crazy bumps either, but I think a lot of the guys do it just to get noticed because it's real tough to move up the ladder there, as everyone's seen.
You're absolutely right on that. It's like if I didn't climb up the scaffold at the Great American Bash with that Fire Marshal Sting, you can better believe it. There was a dressing room full of guys ready to take my place just to get that one shot of getting out there. It's unfortunate that wrestling really doesn't have anything to do with actual wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's changed it, and I don't know when it's going to get back, but it may have to just because of the injury situation.
I think so.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead to a break. We'll be back with more with Vampiro right after this. You can join us at 1-800-878-PLAY. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter. We're here with Vampiro, and I want to remind everyone that if you want to watch Vampiro, you can actually watch him wrestle most weeks on Sunday mornings at 2 o'clock on Galavision. They have the wrestling from... let's see, get me my dates right. 16 days earlier at Arena Mexico, they have the matches, and also he's going to be wrestling Rey Bucanero this coming Friday night at the year-end, the main event of the year-end show at Arena Mexico, and on December the 20th at the Fort Lauderdale War Memorial Auditorium, he's wrestling Satoshi Kojima for the Major League Wrestling Championship. And I wanted to, you mentioned earlier about UFC and Pride. How prevalent is the exposure of that in Mexico, and how much, if you were going out there and doing some, whether it's positions from those matches or submissions, which have kind of caught on in Japan, I mean, how recognizable would that be, at a Mexican show?
See, a lot of the submissions that I do, I learned from Matt Fury. All of the submissions I do, I learned from Matt Fury, and I don't know if a lot of listeners know who he is, but he's trained with Carl Gotch, and plus he was, he's a world champion in Kung Fu, and plus he was a national champion, a wrestler in college, and so he's pretty well my guru, as he's God in my eyes. So a lot of things I do, if they're submissions, they're so real, you have no choice but to understand that it's a real hold. UFC and Pride down here, they have their own versions in Mexico. And it's almost, I don't know if, Dave, if you've seen in your travels the tapes from the Ukraine and Russia and stuff like that.
I've seen the Russian tapes, yeah.
Yeah, you know how violent and...
Yeah, that's too violent for me.
It's what it's like down here.
Yeah.
So it's coming in. You can get it on pay-per-view UFC every time there's a show. So, it's definitely gaining popularity down here in a big way. So it is making a difference. We have meetings with our company, and the boss stresses, if you're going to throw a punch, make sure that punch is a real punch, because what used to fly 20 years ago, it just doesn't cut it anymore. So things are changing everywhere because of that mixed martial arts.
Let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach, Florida.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good, Alan. What's happening?
I wanted to ask Vampiro the rumors about Mike Awesome being drunk that night when he dropped him. Is that true? Is there any truth to that?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. All right. And I want to ask Dave something else.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask Vampiro the rumors about Mike Awesome being drunk that night when he dropped him. Is that true? Is there any truth to that?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. All right. And I want to ask Dave something else.
Yes.
In rumors about Hogan coming back, and what do you know?
Right now, there's, him and Vince have not spoken about coming back. Obviously, he wants to come back, and, Vince is, Vince threw a big fit about him, refusing to come back and lose to Brock Lesnar. So he kind of, I don't want him back. He's selfish, blah, blah, blah. But, when it comes to WrestleMania, Vince will probably soften his stance, especially, he's got, shareholders to answer to, and Hogan's saying he wants to come back, and Vince is going to have to answer why, Hogan's not back. So, I expect that Hogan will be back next year. But as far as, next week, I don't think it's happening that soon.
Right. I wanted to ask you about Hogan's book real quick.
Yes.
You mentioned that you thought, I think either you or Bryan said that, most of it was fictitious.
I don't want to say most of it, just the stuff I know. I don't know about his childhood or anything like that.
About, Andre and him, that they started out as rivals. Is that true, or what?
As far as him and I don't know, but the stories about that match, those stories were fictitious. There was no question that, he was there was no question he was beating Andre the Giant. That was known months ahead. This idea that,
What about the torn back muscle? It didn't happen?
I'm not, I doubt it because he didn't miss any time. And also, slamming Andre, plenty of guys slammed Andre that were a whole lot smaller and not as strong as Hulk Hogan. So it wasn't, it's, the body slam, it's the guy who's getting slammed, that's, if you're a guy like Andre the Giant or Bundy or somebody who's 450 pounds, it's like, you decide, if you want to be slammed, you're going to be slammed, and,
And you brought up Bundy just now. I don't want to take up too much time, but did he really break his ribs accidentally? That's in the book, too.
No, that was an angle to set up their match.
Well, he says no.
Okay, well, he didn't miss any time for that either. He just taped up ribs to sell an angle, so, no.
He's working in the book.
He's working a lot in the book. Way too much for my taste, I'll tell you, because I was reading that book, and it was like every page I had this, little mark on it and going like, oh, God, I tried to like the book because the book is very well written. His ghostwriter did a good job. And at the beginning when he's talking about his childhood and stuff, I thought it was, it's kind of entertaining, and I was interested in it. And then the more it got into wrestling, the more I'm going like, this is BS, this is BS. And about halfway through the book, it was just like, God, it's just too much, and I couldn't handle it anymore. So that's what was my thoughts reading it.
Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Thanks, man.
Okay, let's go to, Mitch in Berkeley. Mitch, what's going on?
How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
I just want to bring up an issue, actually to both of you guys, and just to voice it. I'm extremely offended with Shawn Michaels' over promotion of pro-Christian T-shirts and words and catchphrases. It's just too much for me. I'm just highly offended. Maybe I'm the only Berkeley liberal that watches wrestling, but it bothers me. And although I'm a liberal, I was also offended in the same token when RVD had all this pro-pot stuff. I just think that kind of stuff needs to be out of wrestling.
Well, when I watch it, I just, as far as Shawn Michaels and everything, I think he just hurts himself. Because, Shawn Michaels, when he came back, it was a big deal. And right now, I think it's one of those things where people just want him, I think people don't really want him around. And I think that Vince doesn't recognize that at all. And nor does anyone in the company, because he was once a great star. But it's one of those things where it's just rubbing people the wrong way. You can see, I think when they gave him the belt, it was a big mistake also.
I do too. Does it bother you, or is there any consensus? I feel like I'm the only one that has a problem with all this, pro-Jesus stuff.
When I was younger, I would have had a huge problem with it, but, after they exploit deaths, if somebody's religious, I just consider, I've seen so many guys do the fake religion thing, and I'm not saying that in his case, Shawn Michaels, it's fake, but I'm saying I have seen guys in pro wrestling do it for so long that, you just, after a while, you just become numb to a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, and that's probably not good, but it really has happened with me.
I guess for me, it's just like, you look at DiBiase, and here's a guy that, as far as I can remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's got a full-on, career and being an evangelist and stuff, but even when he was on WCW in the end days, he wasn't pushing that.
No, he didn't push it on TV, and there were a lot of angles that DiBiase said, no, I cannot do this because it interferes, and I just don't think that Shawn will be, doing the same thing.
What do you think, Vampiro, as far as where putting your personal beliefs into characters kind of stems, as far as RVD with the pot thing, and as far as Michaels with pushing Christianity and promoting their own beliefs towards that stuff on TV?
It's hard for me to say because I really believe in pushing punk rock down people's throats.
No, I'm with you. I'm just more. I guess I'm more on the straight edge punk rock kind of vibes.
You know, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. You know, drugs and politics and sex, because if you're influencing the youth of America, you know, that's a big responsibility. And just because you know you're into what you're into, you know, 12 and 13-year-old kids who are impressionable, you got to be real careful. I respect the fact that I'm totally against censorship, but there are certain things that you got to take responsibility for. And if you're doing that just to get yourself over because you're insecure, that's wrong. But if you're doing it because you really believe it in your heart and you think you're going to change someone's life, that's a different thing. But those guys, what they're doing, that ain't my thing either.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Binghamton, New York, and Adam. Adam, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, I have a question. How do you get along with Wade Keller these days?
Fine, as far as I know. I haven't had any problems with Wade Keller lately.
You guys talk regularly, or?
No, but I've emailed him and he's emailed me within the last week a couple of times, back and forth a couple of times.
Like, could he be on the show ever, or no?
I don't see any reason why not. I mean, there are so many people that I want to have on the show. I promised. How many months ago did I tell you I was going to get you on? Bam.
Years.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's like, but I mean, I'm not. You know, like, yeah, I would have no problem getting him on the show. At the same time, it's like every week I try to get somebody who's like newsworthy for that week on. So it's very, you know, when it's 5 days a week, it's one thing. When it's 1 day a week, it's a lot more difficult.
Okay.
So.
Also, about Tough Enough. Were you at all bothered by Jonah's prank?
The one where he was like faking that, like he had a career-ending injury and all that.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit callous. You know, I didn't really like that.
Yeah, I did too. You know what it was? It was like it was kind of like an epitome of things in pro wrestling where, you know, you okay. In pro wrestling, when I was a kid, they used to work angles because they had this motive, which was to get people to buy tickets to see the revenge for the angle. Then it got to the point where everybody just started working everybody all the time because it just was part of the business. And now I'm watching these guys who aren't even wrestlers yet, and the biggest thing is to like, you know, like see if I can fool these guys. I mean, like, you know, that girl was crying, those guys were crying. They got back at him and everything, as you saw when they X-laxed his drink, which was another thing of going like, wow, they're learning pro wrestling really quick, aren't they? You know, but it actually made for real good television though. But as far as and it probably helped his character and probably helped him because athletically he's not the best guy on that show. But I don't know. I mean, I tell you what, he was more convincing than most wrestlers in the same situation.
That's true. Were the trainers in on that?
What?
Were the trainers in on that joke? Like, they know ahead of time that he was going to fake it? Like Al Snow and Bill DeMott?
Al Snow and Bill DeMott and all them, they all knew, yeah. It was just the kids that didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more thing. Is it okay to assume that Angle's going to beat Big Show and then fight Brock at WrestleMania for the title?
No, I would say it's not safe to assume that. I think that it's a possibility, but I don't know.
You get Brock turn face and then, you know, Angle.
Well, Brock is a face now, and Brock is going to face. There is the idea that Brock's going to face Angle at WrestleMania. I mean, it could get derailed, you know, easily, but that is the idea right now.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, we're going to go to Josh in Springfield, Ohio. Josh, what's going on?
I just had a question for Vampiro.
Yes.
Were you considering going to Ring of Honor anytime soon, maybe? I think you fit in real well there.
To what? To where?
Ring of Honor is independent promotion out of Philadelphia. It's actually Rob Feinstein. Why don't you tell the story about that?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah. There's just a certain personality conflicts that would make that very difficult.
Yeah, sometimes I got this bad habit of speaking my mind, especially when I'm in character. I really get out of control. And Rob's never been a fan of mine, and I don't even know who he is, but I think I've just had about enough of him. And I shot my mouth off about him, and I just don't think Ring of Honor is going to happen. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I was seeing that Conan was going to be in there in late December.
Yeah, Conan's wrestling there in a couple of weeks.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, I wish him luck.
Yeah. Anything else, Josh? We got to run real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question about Tough Enough.
Yes.
Did you see that John was labeling himself as a Tough Enough finalist wrestling in California?
I didn't know he was labeling himself as that, but yeah, I heard that they weren't supposed to wrestle until after the season's over, and I saw that he was wrestling. That may work against him. I don't know, or maybe they changed the rules, but I know that they hadn't changed them when the thing started.
All right, thanks for taking my question, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome, Josh. We will be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the final segment of the show here. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're here every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. We're here with VAMPIRO. We just got a couple of minutes left. I want to ask you, future plans. What's it look like for you as far as wrestling and just life in general?
Life in general couldn't be better. I'm happy being married, happy being a dad, happy getting my business going. I got my school, hopefully opening a nightclub within the next 3 or 4 months also. Wrestling-wise, I'm very happy that I finally learned how to wrestle, and I'm doing what I want to do the way I want to do it. And I hope that I won't be around too much longer, 3 years maybe at the most, 1 year at the least. But however long it is, I'm going to give it my all, and hopefully the fans will be happy with the work I do.
Do you have any goals as far as going back to the United States or Japan, as far as like full time?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I don't fit in the United States. It's just not my thing. I'm too set in my ways, I think, and they don't need me. And as far as Japan, I love to go for the big shows, but doing 3 and 4 weeks, especially with a young daughter in a marriage, you know how many broken marriages there are in this business, and I don't want to be another statistic. So she kind of wants me. I love to go for big shows, but if not, that's no big thing.
Well, as far as in the States, we got the show on December the 20th. Do you have any other bookings coming up in the States?
No, I'm not too hip about the United States independent scene. I don't fit in there either. Those guys are trying to make it, and they got their illusions and their dreams, and I'm over it. I've had my run in the States, and it's just they don't get it. It's a different time. It's a different set of philosophies, and it just stayed for me. Major League Wrestling, I think it's a great idea because they mix the States, Japan, and Mexico. And I love that, but all the other guys, I don't really fit in. I love the guys, and I wish them luck, but, it just ain't my thing.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for joining us, and good luck on Friday. I know it's a pretty big match there. I guess one of the bigger matches of the year.
It's already sold out, so I'm kind of nervous.
It's already sold out? Well, then that's a good sign, though.
For the boss it is. If he pays me, it's even better.
Do you get bonuses when you're selling the place out, or are you pretty much interested on guarantee you're going to get the same thing either way?
I set myself up for a guaranteed deal just because when things are bad, they're bad, but I still want to get paid. Some guys, hair matches, title matches, mask matches, they get big bonuses, major big bonuses. They make more in one night than they do in 3 years, so it's a pretty big deal for whoever is going to go home bald that night. Okay, we're going to talk to you soon, and we got to get out of here. We'll see you all next Sunday. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.